You're listening to the Collected Podcast, bringing you inspiration and resources to help you discover and live from your truest self. Follow along on social media at Collected Workshops, and be sure to visit thecollectedpodcast.com for show notes and to learn more.
Welcome to episode 16 of the Collected Podcast with Jess Biondo,
Michaela Hooper,
and Tia McNelly. This week, we are interviewing Sergei Prokhnevskiy. Say that name twice, please.
That's why I made Tia do the introduction.
Sergei
So
Prokhnevskiy.
I don't know if I can say that last name.
You did it.
But he is an amazing man. What I love about his story that you're about to hear is that the world kept telling him that he should be one thing, but he knew in his heart he was supposed to be something completely different. And it was a huge inspiration. And so without further ado, here is Sergei.
Welcome, Sergei. We are so excited to have you here on our podcast. We're just going to go ahead and dive right in. Would you tell us a little bit about your journey growing up? You're from Ukraine, so tell us how your family came from Ukraine to the States.
Awesome. Hey, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. But yeah, my journey is a unique one because I started way back in Ukraine, which I was born in U.S.S.R, which is like a country that doesn't exist anymore, and a lot of people look at it as a cuss word anyway. So it's a weird country that doesn't exist. But I was born, and then I was born into a big, large family. We have 9 altogether, 7 brothers, 2 sisters, and on top of that, we were growing up in the place where both parents and the whole family we were Christians in a nation that didn't believe in that, and so the persecution came, and my father, my family, it's a lot of times people don't realize the importance when the government controls the source of everything, like your income, your food. Then when you don't go along, then it's not as easy, so it's not like, hey, I'll find another job. Where do you go? So obviously hardship was there. My dad and my family, mainly my dad, suffered a lot, but also family kind of experienced the ripple effect of that. So, but in 91, Soviet Union collapsed, and you would think it would be better, but it got worse because then we had no stability at all. And it was everybody for themselves. There's no rule of law. Mafia took over. It was a lot of interesting things that we don't think about. And so then it kind of got better, worse, and family of 9. I got to experience poverty, like sharing toothbrushes, shoes. You name it. It was quite a journey, but I didn't think it was bad because my parents just covered us with so much love and joy that for us it wasn't that bad until someone pointed out, like, hey, you guys are broke. You're in poverty. I'm like, oh, really? Wow. Thanks for waking me up. I appreciate it. And so that was my start. But the problem with poverty mindset is just it carries over into other areas of your life. And when I was in school, I remember my first grade, we go in, my teacher's like, all right, tomorrow, kids, when you come back, we're going to have an art class. So bring scissors, bring art supplies. And I'm thinking, like, as she's saying this, like, what? Like, where am I going to get this stuff? And I remember my brother and I would come back the next day, and the teacher would ask, like, all right, everybody pull out your art supplies. And we didn't have any. And when you're in front of your peers, you don't want to admit that you're broke. So we just said, naturally, we forgot. And then she let us have it, put us in front of the whole classroom, and just kind of like the Soviet style correction that I would say, but it wasn't like physical. It just kind of shamed you in a lot of ways. But that was my introduction to the education realm, and so I realized education is not for me. And then after that, it kind of rippled into, that carries over into your math and into other areas. And I remember this, and it might sound weird and harsh to you guys, but at the time it seemed okay. I remember we were in the woods, and it was like a class, some kind of field day trip. I don't know what that was. It was just we would go in the woods sometimes and play. And I remember, like, I was around peers, and my teacher was talking to me, and she was telling me how, like, together they're all like, oh, Prokhnevskys, you guys are so dumb. Like, you're lucky if one day you'll end up in America where they're so dumb over there, and somehow you'll make it there maybe. And I was like, man, was she prophesying over me?
Oh my
Wow.
And so that was my introduction. And I know it sounds harsh, but that lady was actually a nice lady. Like, it's just, you got to picture that's the Ukraine in 91, 92, 93. There's a lot of hardship everyone experiencing. And, Ukraine in general, like Soviet people, they're a nation with no grandfathers. A lot of them grew up without fathers because of the World War II. And so I, growing up, never looked at it as that. Like, I always looked at it as, like, I don't know, just never held a grudge. And so that was my beginning of everything. I always thought I was dumb, never amount to anything. And the only thing that worked out for me was sports. I just, for some reason, I found my passion in sports. I became a pretty good soccer player, and that's the wave I kind of, got a hold of and went with it. So that was in Ukraine. And then eventually my father and my family had an opportunity to move to U.S. They had an opportunity to move as a refugee. But even though collapse already happened, the door was still open. He didn't take it at the time when it was hard, when he was getting persecuted pretty heavily. But eventually things just got worse and worse and worse for us. We just didn't have, it just didn't look good. We were probably going to end up druggies, and you get the picture.
Yeah, sure.
So he took the journey in 2000. We took that ticket. We came to America, and it's been amazing. Like, I love this country. I love especially the southern people, because out of all places, we ended up in Tennessee, eastern Tennessee, in the middle of nowhere. I remember being there, and like a lot of people would come up to me, it's like, where are you from? Russia. Or I would say Russia, because no one knew where Ukraine was.
Right.
I remember worked at Cheddar's, like a restaurant, in a local restaurant where I lived, and I would tell them I'm from Ukraine. They would say, like, I think my grandmother went on a mission trip to Ukraine, Africa or something, or what part of Mexico is it? So there was a lot of that. So I would just say, I'm from Russia.
Yeah.
And then on some days when Russia would do something stupid, I'm like, I'm Sergio from Italy, or
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You can kind of pass for whatever you want.
So the Tennessee, I think I got to know the Soviet realm of things, lifestyle, and then I got to move into a new whole world at age of 12. And that's where I found, just like my teacher told me, she said, you're lucky if you're going to end up in America. And she was right, and she told me, because I got to see the American thinking, how they see the best in you. And I'm not downgrading Slavic people. It's just, they had a hard life, and that's how they dealt with things. But Americans didn't have a life like we did. And because of that, I got to experience the way you guys live here, and how encouraging, and how, you can be anything you want, shoot for the stars. See, that's something I didn't hear growing up. And then after you hear it so long, you start believing, you're like, maybe I can do what I want, And
So when you came to America, you started dreaming?
American dream. And honestly, that's where, when I was growing up, it still was hard. I'm not going to lie, coming here, not knowing the language, it was hard. But I think for me, I was always a dreamer. Like, I saw a world that I daydreamed a lot, and it's something that I kind of was embarrassed about.
Really?
Because to a point, it was so real to me that reality didn't seem real. I would even, like, I hate to admit this, I had conversations, like, in my dreams, in my visions.
Yeah.
Like, and because of that, I didn't have any friends growing up. Because you first move in, you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture, you don't know how to connect with people yet. And it's sad, you have a joke to tell, but you can't tell it to anybody. So you're like, I can't tell it. But in a way, I kind of created my own world.
Yeah.
That when I saw, I got no word for being the most quietest person on the team. I got, so like people were, in a weird way, even here, were portraying me to be one person. But on the inside, I was picturing stages, speaking in front of a lot of people. I had this unbelievable, like, in a way, it kind of scared me sometimes, like, this is kind of self-centered, or like, why am I picturing crowds, why am I picturing having an impact on like a lot of people? So
you could almost sense your purpose and your calling at that young age.
It was weird, but I never saw it as that. I just thought it was a daydreaming, like, it's you don't think of things until you find out that not everyone's like that. You're like, oh, so I'm weird, like, why do I But I learned early on the importance of heart. Like, I was never, like, I don't think I've ever read a book from cover to cover. Like, I'm not, education, like you said, it was something, I had all these lies put on me. And when I came to America, and started pursuing my heart. See, there's something about head and heart. Like there's certain things that your heart tells you that it's the good things, if you focus on the good things, that are so good for you. And the problem is you have to get alone. And the problem is you have to go past the noise of other people's goals and dreams and words. And you see, like, and that can only be achieved when you're alone and you're thinking and you're getting deep into it. And I think the best thing you can do in life, and that's something I found out for myself. I'm no expert in this stuff, but I learned that good things come out of your passions from, or desires from your heart. There's something to say to that, because it's, I don't know how to explain, because a lot of times it's the opposite of reality. Like, you know, like it's, you look at it, your heart tells you one thing, but you look around, it's completely opposite.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just ignore it. But I don't know why I did that, but early on, I believe that. You know, I made that more of, I don't know how to say it, more of a priority.
That's good.
And then what happens, it goes into your brain, you start visualizing, and then it comes out, manifests.
I love that.
You had like mindset shifts that I think even as a kid, it sounds like you were told one thing and you started to believe one thing, but then that shifted and you started to believe the opposite of that thing. And that's actually coming to fruition right now. Like some of those things that you believed, that you started to believe about yourself, you're walking in them. And that's the power of what you're saying. Our mind and our heart connecting and us believing truth, even though it might not seem like reality.
Your body is the God-given vessel for your soul, mind, heart, and spirit while you're here on this earth. Our bodies must be cared for in order for us to be our best selves. How we're doing physically affects how we show up for those we love. Remember, at Collected, we know that self-care is not selfish. But knowing how to care for our physical bodies in the right way can be challenging. Having the tools, knowledge, and time is crucial. Katie Dixon, owner of Katie Fit in Block Charlotte, is your daily resource for education and inspiration that will help you care for your body. Follow her on Instagram at KatieKatie. That's at KADIKATIE. As a gift to the Collected Podcast listeners, Katie's offering a 1-month trial at either of her studios. Follow at Katie Fit in Lake Norman. That's at KADIFIT, or at block.clt in Charlotte. That's at BLOC.CLT. DM her for details on the special offer.
You and your twin brother had a dream when you were 12 years old that you're now seeing come to fruition today. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when we first moved to U.S., we obviously didn't have a lot of friends, and someone just, I know who that someone is. A guy just brought us a computer. And keep in mind, I've only seen black and white TV by that point. Never had a computer, didn't understand it, and someone brought it to us and say like, hey, you can have this. So we went crazy on that thing, and they had a lot of Adobe stuff, and so we started like getting into video and all these nerdy stuff that I do today. But I remember like at age 12, we were thinking like, wouldn't that be crazy to one day own a company? We're like, yeah, that seems weird, like, but that would be cool. Like, that seems so far away, I don't think we'll ever do it, but yeah. And we took it a step further. It's like, let's dream about it. Let's come up with the name. Like, if we had a company, what would it be? And we like thought about it for days, and like we had different names, and like Ukramedia, my twin brother Vladimir came up with it. And we're like, yeah, that's a cool name. Sounds legit. Like, our English is limited. That's the best we can do. And then like I was like, hey, let's create a logo for it. And I created a logo for it. I still have it. And then we kind of put it away. And then like years later, he went his separate way. I went my separate way. And we just kind of every now and then we'll do like film like a wedding or something, and then we'll like do like a press passes or something with our Ukramedia, just to kind of like, I don't know,
Love that.
just did some silly things here and there. And then like one day I decided to open up a YouTube channel, and I was like, I need to come up with the name, and like all the good ones were already taken. I'm like, I can't think of anything. And I was like, Ukramedia, like we haven't done anything with it. It sounds like it could be something.
Sounds legit to me.
And yeah. I mean, it didn't at the time. People were like, what is that? Sounds like a disease or something.
Ukramedia.
But then I chose the name. I picked it as my YouTube channel, but my brother actually came up with the name. And I did it by myself at the time, the YouTube channel. But the whole company thing, it was birthed a long time ago.
What was your YouTube channel?
It was called Ukramedia. That's what it was
But
called.
I mean, what were you?
I was going to teach. I was teaching motion graphics, teaching like how to do animation and things of that nature. But I did like differently. But then Adobe tweets it, bunch of people tweet it, and it explodes. We're at like almost 60,000 subscribers. So like it just exploded. And then it took me to like all these conferences. I mean, like it was
Wait, and now you're a speaker at those conferences,
Yeah.
aren't you? On a big stage like you pictured?
Yeah, just like I pictured, and it's we still talk about this. Like, isn't that crazy? Something that we came up as kids that people look at as a legit thing now. Like it's bizarre how that happens, right?
Yeah. But that's the thing when, it's like the teacher kind of, without knowing it, prophesied over you. Like, you're going to be great in the U.S. Like, that'll be good for you. And you have these almost dreams that you cling to. I was reading in Isaiah this past week, and I was looking in the notes in my study Bible, and it said that one of the verses was written in the prophetic perfect tense. So speaking about it, it's a future event, but you speak about it as if it's already come to pass. Mm-hmm. And I just think like that's what it looks like to walk in victory. When you have these dreams that are from the Lord, that the Holy Spirit's on, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're a 12-year-old kid and you don't know, but you're brave enough or maybe naive enough to believe that it could be so. Mm-hmm. And now you can see it coming to fruition.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the voices that we would least expect to prophesy. They're the voices that we would least expect prophesying over us are the voices that prophesy over us. Or maybe even it's even said in a different tone or light, but actually, like you said, she said something that was a prophetic word over your life, and you probably had no idea, right. At that time. That's how powerful our words are.
That's so true.
Sometimes we never know.
Yeah.
So
I also think it's important to listen to. See, the thing is about the heart thing, it's really silent. Mm-hmm. Like it's only heard like a lot of times. I have like dreams and they've come to pass, and they weren't like these like you would think like this so loud. It was probably one of the most dreams that probably one of the least remembered dreams. But because I meditated on it and just manifested, it became bigger and bigger. Yeah. So I think that still small voice, you gotta make it louder in your life, because a lot of times, if you're not careful, you can let others become more loud than that thing within you. And for me personally, I learned to default to that small voice and trust it better than everything else around it. It doesn't seem logical sometimes.
How have you gotten to the place that you're in of hearing and responding? How has that become your default? Like practical ways, or how have you just come to a point where you're like, that's my default?
Well, for example, I used to, I worked over a year ago, I worked for Fox Sports. I did really well, worked on like Super Bowl, big projects, something I always dreamed about. In fact, that's probably why I got into motion graphics, because I love sports and I love graphics. And here I am like doing what I love for a job that I've always wanted. And then I have a dream, and in my dream I see this, I'm not going to tell too much, but basically this guy next to me tells me everything about my life, like everything. I'm like, all right, you got my attention. What's next? And then he tells me, and he kind of grabs my hand gently and says, by the way, that dream of having your own company, like you're free to go now. You can do it. And I wake up, he said in October. And I wake up and the next month is October, and I'm thinking like, I don't have money saved up. I only have about 2 months of saving. I have 2 children. And so I'm like, for once, I want to be like obedient what I believe, because I knew there's sometimes you understand when dreams come from like when they're special and when they're just dreams. This one had that flavor that I can't explain. Like I lived long enough
like a spiritual
to know.
Dream.
Yeah, to know when it's like real and when it's not. So 2 weeks later, I put into a couple weeks later, put in 2 weeks notice. Like, but the thing is, I was doing really well at Fox Sports. I presented this cool idea. They were gonna fly me to LA and like show like this stuff, and I was doing really well. And it didn't seem right. It actually seemed weird, but in a way, I was sad to go, but I was so glad I did, because it opened up doors that I never thought of, like going to Amsterdam and now Spain, and like it's just unbelievable doors that opened up. And that was all because of listening. But again, I could have easily said it was just a dream.
Yeah.
But it became so, like, I put that more of a priority than everything else, because everything else seemed crazy.
Right.
It didn't seem logical. And I didn't have but one product to sell on the course. I know we had a following, but following, if you understand YouTube, it's just peanuts money. It's not.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely one. But another one I would like to share. Right after I quit Fox, we went to a beach house in North Carolina here, a beautiful place. It was for New Year's Eve, my whole family got together, big house, we all rented it together. And my brother Dimitri had this idea. It's like, hey, on the board, we're going to put our goals for this year. And I remember I was sitting there and he says, like, we're going to do this year, like, everyone, what do you want to do? And I remember thinking, like, I don't know. Like, so I started listening to my heart. And for some reason, like, I had this desire to speak at the conference. And I was antisocial, like introverted, probably the least qualified person. You would have not, if 10 years ago, you would have not picked me. You were like, nah, not you. And I remember, like, I want to speak at the conference. One of the biggest conference, the biggest one probably Adobe holds. And I was like, I'm going to be speaking at the conference, Adobe Max. And I wrote that on the paper. I wrote it down and forgot about it.
When was this?
This was December of 2018.
Okay.
And I completely forgot about it. And then, I didn't even
2018 just
2017.
17, yeah. I'm
17.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
I just want to get the timeline.
And then, I didn't even think about it. Like, it was just something I forgot. I didn't even know when the conference was going to be. I didn't know if it was past or... And then, like, literally a month later or two, I can't remember exactly. I've already talked to Adobe before, so it wasn't like it's not uncommon to hear back from Adobe. But last time I heard from Adobe was 2 years ago when I went to VidCon to do some things for them. And this time around, she's like, hey, I know this is kind of weird, but would you like to speak at Adobe Max? I'm like, I didn't share anything about my dreams or anything to her at all, because we did have a pretty good relationship at that point. And then I was like, sure, yeah. And it wasn't until it was sealed, we did a video on it. It's on our YouTube channel, like talking about how it came about. And basically it came true exactly to a point. I did 3 sessions twice, so 6 sessions altogether. And for the 500 to 700 people, it was the most amazing experience.
That's incredible.
And that was literally like a dream come true for me.
Wow.
And that's what I'm talking about. When heart always tells you to do something that isn't easy. And it's easy, it's always out of your comfort zone, but others look at it as difficult, but for you it's going to look very easy because it's coming from the place of passion.
Yeah.
And love is like falling in love for the first time. You'll do things for your spouse or your significant other that you're dating at the time. Like, you go beyond certain levels just because of that love.
Yeah.
And that same thing, it kind of like avoids all the hardship and stuff. And I think it's so important. I'm always big on, like, what does your heart say?
Yeah.
Because you can force yourself into doing something, but if it's not coming out of your heart, it's just, you're never going to enjoy it. It doesn't matter how hard you try.
That's true.
Yeah.
What would you say your passion is? Like, if you could define your passion.
I love people. I learned that I love people. I love seeing lives transformed. Like, when someone says, like, hey, because of your teaching, I was able to get a job, and now I have a gig that my family enjoys. And to me, that does more than... Because I've had goals, I've had dreams that I've achieved almost all of them that I wanted. Maybe they're not as big as some people's, but I've had things that I've achieved. And honestly, that didn't bring me as much of a joy as going and changing, seeing people's, how their lives changed from what it is you gave them. And that to me is more important than anything, honestly.
I want to say to our listeners, I think it's important to note that Sergei's passion has an extrinsic motivation. He wants to see something outside of himself.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he's passionate about. It's not like, I want to make this much money, or I'm passionate about climbing to the top of this company or something like that. But he's extrinsically motivated to see other people's lives transformed by the work that he does. And I just think that that's an important thing to point out, that typically our passions that are placed in us by the Holy Spirit are not for ourselves, but they're for cultivating the kingdom of heaven on earth.
Right.
And so when you're doing work that allows people maybe by getting a job, he's freed up emotionally and mentally to be able to recognize the voice of the Holy Spirit in his life. You never know like what kind of a ripple effect that has in someone's life. So
yeah. And the dreams that you've had, you know, like you said, a lot of them have come to fruition. Like you've done them, but at the heart of it, your passion is for people, and it's not just about checking it off the list.
right.
And I think that's really, I mean, that's far greater, you know, the result of that is far greater than just checking something off the list. But when the passion is for people, and like Tia said, it goes beyond yourself, you're always going to be surprised and blown away by the fruit that comes from that. So, so awesome.
So, okay, I have a question for you. If you say you're talking to someone who is facing impossible seeming circumstances like your family was facing when you were in middle school, what would you say to that person? What advice would you give to them as they stare these impossible circumstances in the face?
Well, here's what I would say. I think people can situations, people, whatever, they can still kill, destroy. But one thing no one can take away from you is your ability to dream. And because it doesn't matter where you're at, one thing you do have is imagination. And it can, I mean, I hate to say this, but I slipped away into that space so much that it became like I wasn't quick to, like, peer pressure never has been an issue for me because I was sure in my own world that I created.
Right.
So if someone's going through a hard time, I would just amp up that imagination world, start seeing what you're not seeing, because we all have it, and it's not something, like I said, anyone can steal from you. It's something you give away freely. So you either give it away yourself, and you yourself have to blame for that. So what I would say is, whatever you do, get away alone and just start. Like, it's one God-given gift that we all have is imagination.
Yeah.
You can imagine. You can trick your brain, right, and to be or feel differently.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff is temporary, but it's all about just keeping the faith. You know, and imagination is a great tool. I look at it as a tool. I know a lot of people feel weird about imagination. Now that I'm thinking about it, it might feel weird, but it never felt, but I think it's a tool that you have to use when you need to. It's a tool.
Yeah.
You look at it as that. So yeah.
Well, and I see that you used it as a tool to overcome that poverty mindset. I've always, through, a decade of work in the developing world, the determination I came to is that the definition of poverty is the inability to imagine your circumstances being any different. That is a lack of hope. Yeah. So when hope enters in, suddenly abundance has a doorway to come in and say, actually, things can be different. And that's where imagination is the tool to ushering in more and more abundance and overcoming that poverty mindset. So I think that's incredible. That's a wonderful piece of advice.
The only problem with that, I would say, with like living, what I would say, out of faith, out of imagination, is that it's tough because it's a crazy way of living. You're not very rational, right? It's like it can be tough because reality does kick in, and you constantly have to keep yourself strong and in your foundation. But yeah, it's a tough journey. Like always people say, like, believe is so easy. Is it? I don't know. You tell me, because like you hear all the good stuff, but there were so many bad things I had to learn.
That's true.
Because I have a vivid imagination for good and for bad. So I have to battle, depression and other things as well. So I had to learn to default to good.
It's not like you can just sort of like escape to La La Land and everything.
Because you develop this huge imagination, right? That basically everything becomes vivid to you. Like, I'm very sensitive to things, but I'm sensitive to good and bad.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful to learn. So it's not always easy. It's not like I figured it out, but it's good to stay on the good, because
That's
good always
awesome.
produces good.
Yeah.
I love it.
You said something earlier, like I think you said it's a problem, the kind of having to get quiet or having to pause, or I can't remember how you said it, but anyway, I think that connects to, I was just thinking of that as you were talking about, having that vivid imagination and being able to find the balance of living from that. And regardless if people say, oh, that is so unrealistic, Sergei, but as you grow in that and as you operate in it, you learn the balance of living from that, but also like holding it lightly, if you will. So I don't know. I just,
when sensing the Spirit,
Yes.
like what Holy Spirit, what of this is my imagination running wild, and what of this is you speaking into my life in the direction that I'm supposed to be headed right now?
Yeah.
It's tough, but because if you understand, I guess, your foundation, then I think that's probably the key, is just understanding your foundation, like where you're heading. It's kind of like if you drive a car without a destination, it's a tough way of living, and that's where you have to be anchored. like I know my destination. It doesn't matter if I take a detour, but I'm still going there.
Yeah.
And I think living from your heart, and just like after you figured it out, like after you know where you're going, it's just keep your eyes on that.
Yeah.
And I would say no matter their circumstances, because life is tough. So you got to be kind to people. And yeah, it's definitely, it's a tough journey. It's not easy.
That's the best thing I've heard all day, Sergei. Life is tough. You got to be kind to people.
Yeah.
That's good.
And if, as you're listening to this, everyone, I mean, that Sergei has something to say. Like, it's just, I'm just so excited to see you now and even what's coming.
Yeah, Michaela, I got such a sense as he was speaking that I heard the words, greater things are yet to come. You were talking about how maybe your dreams don't seem that big to some people, but they're completely out of the scope of possibility to some. And they probably were to you when you dreamed them or dreamt them. But I want to just say, like, I see that even bigger things that you haven't dreamt yet are coming.
Thank you.
Down the line. I can definitely see that. It's incredible. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you coming on. I feel like this is the conversation that could continue for hours if we let it. So we may have to have you on again. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you for having me. It was a blast. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
That was such a great interview. I just think it's amazing how at such a young age, Sergei already knew in his heart what he was created for. And I think a lot of us, if we look back at the things we are passionate about as children or what inspired us, somehow connects to the thing we were created for. It's like as children, we can recognize that in ourselves, but then our adult selves kind of lose touch with that, or we put on the masks, or we've lost sight of who we were created to be as we try and fit this mold that the world has placed us in.
Yes.
I mean, I think back when I was a kid, I had a card company with my two best neighbor friends, Lisa and Sarah.
Awesome.
Our company was JSL Incorporated, and we made cards. And now I make cards.
Yes. Yeah.
Part-time. And so it's just funny to see how, like, don't poo-poo, for lack of a better term, the things you're passionate about as a child.
Yeah.
It's true.
I was emotional during the interview because I felt like, for a number of different reasons, but I was emotional because I think, sometimes we sacrifice what our heart is saying because something else might seem to make sense, or maybe it provides financially in a way that the thing that your heart is saying you might think may not provide financially. So I don't know. It's just, I was emotional also because you could just feel the Spirit in the midst of the interview. And as Sergei was talking, and how his heart is so aware of what the Spirit's saying, and just his ability to pause and consider, okay, Holy Spirit, what are you saying? How are you moving me? What's, what are you saying to my heart? And I think that's, he said, it's getting quiet and it's listening to what our hearts are saying. And that so resonated within me. And I don't know, the emotion, I think it came from a number of different places, but man, so much depth. And
And
Goodness.
it was interesting too, the language that we use collected around, words like mind, heart, spirit, body, soul.
Right.
I think everybody kind of has a different understanding of what those words mean, which is why we choose to give them definitions, like functional definitions for our discussions. And so I guess the thing that I kept thinking about was how Sergei's able to distinguish when the Holy Spirit is moving his spirit to interact with his heart.
Right.
That's kind of the heart spirit connection. Mm-hmm. We interact with the supernatural realm in our spirit, and then our emotions kind of connect with Holy Spirit in our heart, and then we know that that's legit. Mm-hmm. But when your mind is taking hold of emotions as opposed to your spirit, I think that's when we get off course. Mm-hmm. So very, very interesting conversation with him. I loved our, first of all, just being able to get his story. Mm-hmm. When you think about the desperation of a believing mother and father of 9 children in such a trying time in history, and just the courage that it took to say, okay, I guess we're going to uproot our lives. We have no better option than to completely uproot our lives and move to something totally unfamiliar. Mm-hmm. But I love the way that Sergei talked about imagination being his sort of on-road to his dreams.
Mm-hmm. And this idea that as your belief is strengthened, it continues to fuel your dreams, which then in turn strengthens your belief as you see those dreams start to take form. And then as your belief is strengthened, your dreams are fueled even more. And in my mind, it's just this constant infinity where the one fuels the other over and over until you're at a place where you never would have expected with the Lord. But it's so good.
It's so good.
All right, guys, we could talk with and about Sergei for
Follow
days.
Your heart.
So we hope that you have an incredible week, and we will meet you back here next Thursday.
And we'd love to hear from you. hello@collectedworkshops.com. With any questions, comments, join in with the conversation. We'd love to start to be able to read some reader or listener emails on the podcast as well. Have a great week.
Yep, do it. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Collected Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you would spread the word. You can follow Collected on social media at Collected Workshops. You can also find Tia at Tia McNelly Notes and Jess at Spreza Foundry. Check back for weekly episodes dropping every Thursday.